The Citizen Mike Show. News. Commentary. Interviews. The Citizen Mike Show starts now.
Welcome to the Citizen Mike Show. Thanks for tuning in. We do appreciate it. My name is Mike Berdinsky, and somewhere on that split screen is our special guest tonight, Tom Laffin, Vice Chair of the Wallingford Town Council, and of course, Christopher K. Shortell. Tom, I wanted to start the show by asking you about an article that appeared in the Record Journal on May 28th. I think it was on the front page. And it referred back to a vote that you guys took on Tuesday night. And it had to do with a motion made by Craig Fishbein. Let me just first get to that headline and we can refresh our memories a little bit. Written by Lauren Decora, it says, Council considers resolution opposing business restrictions. And the lead sentence goes, encouraged by declining new local cases of COVID-19 and frustrated by the slow rollout of the state reopening plan, the town council voted Tuesday to draft a resolution asking for more local control over reopening businesses. The motion that was made by Craig Fishbein reads as follows, and I took this from the video. I watched the video and made notes and paused it so I could write down what he said. But the motion, as he later clarified it, was to reach out, that'd be the town council, to reach out to the law department to put together a proposed resolution in line with asking the governor to consider opening Wallingford on a more expeditious manner, giving more local control to our health department and relevant professionals of the like. I think how it ended. And that motion was seconded by Craig Fishbein's assistant treasurer to his reelection campaign. And so, that was, kind of baked in the cake, I guess. Oh, Chris Shortell seconded that motion. And then the resolution that you guys wanted came back today, and I want to ask you about that too. But Tom, you supported this at the time. What was it that attracted you to this resolution?
Sure. And first, thank you both for having me on the show. So originally, even looking at the agenda, I'm like, why are we going to play part in what I hope isn't just state theatrics? I'm more about getting stuff done and making a big deal about stuff. And the outdoor graduation was a part of the agenda item. And I think we discussed that thoroughly first. And I think the way that the discussion evolved and what ended up being Craig's motion, I was good with. And you saw some people, kind of myself included, kind of like flip or okay, come around to the whole thing. Not speaking for any of the other counselors. The headline I want to say first, like the opposing, the word opposing. I don't think it's necessarily opposing. What we're basically asking is for a little more local control. So the resolution that we got today, the draft resolution, I think it's the way I read it quickly. We just got it today. It stood a little harsher than I think I was thinking it was going to go, and I'm sure we can amend that. But I think we had all the Wallingford salons and barbershops, and that's really what spurred all of this. We're ready, and Steve Sotelli, our public health director, and his assistants worked with all these people, made sure they were all up to code, all up to compliance with all the new compliances, and then it was all put to a halt because some others more towards Fairfield County expressed concern that they weren't going to be ready, then don't open. But I think the basis is, I think this kind of goes back to Wallingford's way, right? Is that we're the island, right? So that trust us, we got it. I get and I respect where the governor is coming from. I don't agree with the way everything's been going, but I respect it still. And I think that we have the team in Wallingford between the public health department, the fire department, the police department to monitor and allow these businesses to safely open under the original intent, without any 11th hour changes. And I think that's what we're really looking for.
Okay. Mr. Assistant Treasurer of the Fishbein campaign, what do you think? You seconded. What was it about this that you liked? And then we'll compare it with the resolution you got back.
It's deputy treasurer.
Deputy treasurer.
Deputy treasurer.
Deputy treasurer.
I've been Craig's deputy treasurer for each of his 3 runs for state rep. I don't know that I liked it. He called me before and I agreed to second it. This is more of an exploratory thing for me. I don't feel bound to vote for it just because I voted to have Janice draft it. I know you're going to tell me. I'm guessing you hate when I tell you what you're going to tell me, so I won't even do that. We'll find out in 2 minutes. But this is in my time on the council. I have not been on as long as Tom has. This is the 3rd resolution I think that I've encountered. The first resolution was on the Merino bill in October of 2017, which was right before the election.
Just explain what the Merino bill is, so
Sure.
we're on the same page on that.
It was a bill that had been passed in the previous year by a congressman named Merino that was perceived after the fact to have weakened the DEA in their fight against the opioid crisis, and that it weakened some restrictions. And I don't remember anything more than that it was. It came to us from the mayor. Actually, the mayor and Janice Small brought it to us. Everyone was outraged. The Coalition for Better Wallingford was there. And I believe it was our last meeting before the 2017 election, and we voted for it 8-1, the one dissenting vote being Craig Fishbein. Craig had some arguments that night, which we won't get into here, but a lot of them centered on the bill itself, that it wasn't really a bill, or that they were getting whatever, they're getting the wrong legislation. But a lot of it too was, what right did we have to do that as a council? So the second one was almost a year ago exactly. It was in April of last year. It was the tolls, and it was a resolution opposing tolls. That's when that was the big debate. I voted for the Merino bill one in 2017. I voted against the toll one on the grounds that I didn't feel it was not in our jurisdiction. It felt political, and there was a slippery slope. Where would it end if it's toll? We were beating up on a Democrat governor, and with Trump in the White House, where are the resolutions on Trump? Where are the you could have resolutions every day. So this one came around. So I'm 1 out of 2 on these. Craig did ask me to second it just to get it just drafted. So I did. I did read it as well, and I have some concerns about it. And I am. I don't know. I'm undecided right now. That's what I'm going to do. Let me just finish. I am a big. Here's why I'm undecided. I don't think it's our job to get into these types of things, these battles. I maintain the slippery slope argument. However, I also have been on record as saying that the town council is a bully pulpit, and I don't think we use it enough as a council. That's the part that I'm torn about. Is this the appropriate place to use the council as a bully pulpit? Or is it just always inappropriate? So that's where I'm a little torn, and I'm undecided. Now you can tear me apart.
Not at all. I'm going to compliment your eloquence, your deliberate thoughtfulness. I'm going to compliment your. Well, that's about all I can think of, because you're right. I don't think it makes a lot of sense. But the bully pulpit. Let's get to the bully pulpit for just a minute. You can use the bully pulpit for local issues, local policies, local causes. That's one category. Or you can use the bully pulpit as your seat on the council to advocate for, or demagogue, or however you want to phrase it, on a state issue that's very partisan, or a national issue that's very partisan. When toll issue came up last time, and you or I were on the show. I joked, but I had some seriousness to it, that sooner or later the Democrats will figure it out. And every time Craig Fishbein puts one of these on the agenda to sort of, get publicity, to make a name for himself, to keep faith with his base, and inject himself in a very divided issue, the Democrats will figure it out and put global warming on the agenda too, same night, and just have it out. And everyone can research global warming, and everyone can research this beauty parlor stuff. But the question I would ask, and we'll start with Tom because we'll sort of go in a rotation. It's two questions, Tom. By what right does the town council have or claim to have to represent the feelings of all the people of Wallingford who you presume to believe they all want these beauty shops open? You seem to know what they all want, and they all speak of the same mind. And I'm just saying, well, that's pretty, you're a really smart guy if you know what everyone feels. And the other question, if you could address, is why is it in the best interest of the town of Wallingford and the town council to wade into these very divisive issues and divide the town? Tom.
Yep. So first, I come from the standpoint that we are elected as trustees, and then once we're elected, we look at what we feel is best for Wallingford. I never, or at least very, very rarely, I never try and approach an issue as if like, what do I think a majority of the people want? I approach it from, I was elected of the 9. There are a diverse 9. I was elected of the 9 to make decisions based on what I feel is best for the town, not just the government, the community, people, whatever after that. So that's that kind of the first part of the question. The second part, it's really, I think it's not necessary. I think this is best for our community, and it's a statement that's saying that we've got a solid crew, we've got a solid ship, we're running everything very tightly, we're being very concerned, we're listening to all of the concerns in the executive orders that the governor's office has passed down, and we're ready. And so why do we have to wait because others are not? And we would not allow a salon or a barbershop to open if they were not ready either, and they tried to open. So I think what we're really looking at as a community, and on a COVID level, at some point, this started as a let's flatten the curve, and now it flatten the curve because it's kind of inevitable. Everybody's going to get it, but we need to manage our hospitals and our limits so that we can take care of all the people. Some people are going to get it, and they're going to be very sick, and they're going to need to go to the hospital. Some people are going to get it, be very sick, go to the hospital, and they're not going to make it, period. Some people are going to get it and just stay home, and they'll be fine. Some people are going to get it and never really even know. And now we've gotten to the point where we more than flattened the curve. We're below. We flattened the curve, and now it's like, well, we can't go out because we're not on a vaccine yet. So I don't know when that happens. At some point, there are people willing, because our economy is crumbling, there are people willing, there are businesses and people willing to go out and kind of test the waters. And I think we can do that responsibly, and we can do it safely. And I think, it's 11 to 14 days if it's really going to start to explode, and our hospitals and everything can manage it if it really becomes an issue. And I think we have to try and keep going forward. Now, what responsibility does Wallingford have to do this? I agree the whole resolution thing is a slippery slope. I think in my first term, I argued against the resolution on those very grounds. But then I voted for the Marino resolution, and I voted for the toll resolution. And I think in both of those cases, it was a way of kind of stating and communicating that I feel as a community of what's best for Wallingford is that we're just simply stating this is where we are, and this is how we feel. And what kind of impact does that have? I'm not sure on the resolution level. Does that look political? Yes. And I do not want to be a part of any state political games that were being used. And when I heard Chris making the second, I was like, oh, come on, what are we doing here? And then we asked to have the motion reread, and I was really thinking about it. And Craig had really toned down from where he had kind of started running at the beginning. And it was definitely worth talking to and exploring. But I think the larger point was when we look back at the e-cigarette and the tobacco use, Wallingford started creating ordinances for, we made a statement. We were one of the first towns in the state to push forward that. I don't know that we finished it first, but I want to say that we were the first, or if not the second, or doing it at the same time to really start doing it. It got attention, and then the state went and did it. And so I think we made a statement and we started a movement in that way. And if we didn't start the movement, we at least added credibility to the movement. And do the resolutions have an impact like that? I hope so to some point. I'm not going to be upset if the governor doesn't, go and say, I just got a resolution from Wallingford and, I'm so sorry or anything like that. I don't even expect a response. But I think it's important to let our constituents know and the town know that we're listening and this is what we think. And if you don't like that that's what I think, I'm sorry. I hope that we agree enough that you would consider reelecting me in the future if I chose to keep running. But other than that, it's important to me that they know where I stand so that I can represent them well in the future.
Tom, we're going to circle back to you. I want to get over to Chris for a minute. What I tried to absorb what Tom was saying. I don't think he believes that this has any impact on the governor at all. But we're going to come back to Tom. So Tom, you're going to have, you'll be able to defend your position. That a resolution by a sort of a right-wing Republican, Craig Fishbein, that sort of backs up the statement or a letter by a Republican mayor and a Republican-dominated town council has zero persuasion at the state level. Chris, would you agree with that so far? Then I have more for you.
Yes.
You would agree with that. So
yes.
Yeah. So what's the practical purpose in your mind for this if it's not to sort of relate to your base on an issue that, okay, maybe it's some relation to Wallingford, but it's really not Wallingford's town council's business to get involved and try to intervene in state policy on a nationwide pandemic? I mean, this is a statement to the base, pure and simple, kind of what Tom said, yeah?
Yeah, I think it might be just to show solidarity with the businesses in town. I know of two. I talked to one of them. It's the place that does my hair. So if you look at my hair, I look like I'm stepped out of a 1980s movie. And I talked to the owner when she had to reschedule. I'm scheduled to go next week. So this is the last Citizen, unless Lamont changes his mind again, this is the last Citizen Mike where you will see this. But I think it was a little bit in response to, I don't know who Craig, and Craig has way more contacts in the business community than I have. But I talked to we all have people that businesses we know, and I just talked to two small businesses that I frequent. One of them is my hair place, and they were both, when they were ready to open, and then the day before the governor changed his mind. So I just want to, it's not, you're not wrong that this is sort of, there's absolutely sort of a partisan tinge to this, but let's not also act as if there is some long-standing scientific decision that was made, and now we're just protesting it because we're dumb Republicans. I mean, something happened in 24 hours, and now all of these businesses had to switch. But I will say, what to your point, to just let me wrap this up. What concerns me, beyond the philosophical nature of should we be doing resolutions or not, beyond that, this whole issue has become so. I feel like it's become partisan. I feel like, well, like everything else, but. And Tom didn't say this. But my sense is there's a feeling on the right in general that we overreacted, and that it wasn't as bad. And they, in the beginning, the experts said if we succeed in flattening the curve, people are going to say we didn't need to do all this because we succeeded in flattening the curve. So I am a little bit nervous about the fact that this resolution, there's a subtlety there where it seems to reinforce this right-wing feeling of this isn't as serious as we all said it was. when it is serious. And you know, what last example, where I have concerns with the local control thing in Ohio. I don't know if we talked about this in one of our shows. I'm sorry, in Pennsylvania, they closed the liquor stores. So everyone went to Ohio to buy liquor. In Ohio, they ended up closing Ohio liquor stores to out-of-state people. You had to show your license because all the people went to Ohio. So I think you have to be really careful if you have a state the size of Connecticut, where one town's doing one thing and another town's doing another thing, because we're a fraction of the size of Ohio and of Pennsylvania, so that is an argument against local control and to trust in what the state is doing. So anyway, I don't know if I answered your question.
Well, you've addressed it somewhat. I'm going to sort of reframe the issue the way I want to, and then circle back to Tom. And so I think inherent in the Fishbein-Shortell, only because you seconded it, inherent in the Fishbein-Laffin proposal is a statement that, two statements. One is a hodgepodge patchwork approach is best for the state. Wallingford wants what it wants, but Stanford wants what it wants, and other towns have their own little, spin on it. They may have their own ideas as to what's best, and a state approach, a coordinated approach, is not good, according to what I heard from Tom and Craig Fishbein. What's much better is that every town go out on their own, do what they want to do, because they believe that their community health team is better than the state's, that Craig Fishbein is better at making this decision on community health than the governor's team. That's what it seems to be a fundamental premise of the other side. And of course, and you're right, Chris, I think it does play right into the conservative right's view of things, that it has gone too far, but someone has to make a decision, and it's not easy to make. And when someone makes that decision, of course, they're subject to second guessing. But as a matter of public health, Tom, are you ready to say, as a matter of public health statewide, that Craig Fishbein and you have it right, and the mayor has it right, and the governor's team has it wrong?
On an enforcement level, more so. So when this all started happening, and the lockdowns and the quarantines and the stay in place and stay in home, whatever thing was rolling out, Dr. Fauci was being interviewed, and they said, why don't you just do a national lockdown? Like, what are you waiting for? Like, why don't you just do that? And he said, that's just not in the nature of our government. That's not in the nature of our country. And we're a nation of states, and the federal government is in no position to enforce all of these lockdowns. And the federal government is not in a position to regulate all these things. So they kind of were deferring to the states. They make their statements, and they're looking to the states to enforce and see what fits, what's appropriate for them. Now, Connecticut, New York, especially New York City, New Jersey, Rhode Island, less so Massachusetts, New York City, crammed. They were afraid for a while they were going to not have enough ventilators. Didn't happen, but they were very afraid. Out Midwest or West, aside from California, there was not an issue. The hospitals were empty. They didn't have the same rate of exposure that we did in this area. So they needed to regulate themselves a little differently than we had to regulate ourselves here. Now, again, not that I necessarily agree with all the way that we're regulated, but so we go. So I'm looking, what I favor is that the town to approve or to enforce the state rules and the guideline. It's not like Wallingford is making up its own rules and saying, yeah, our barbershops can open and whatever. In this case, we're going by one unified rule set, and that's from the governor's office. We're just saying, let us decide if our people meet your guidelines and if we're ready. And to go back around, I agree almost with everything, I think everything that Shortell said. I hope this resolution does get heard or make a difference, just as I believe our stances on the e-cigarette situation did. That wasn't a resolution, that was an ordinance, but still. It probably doesn't. I don't expect it to, but I hope it does. And to me, that's enough where it's worth it for us to take the stance on some major issues like this. to do that and say something. Another important part I just want to hit real quick is, Chris talked about this wasn't scientific. It's not. And neither is the 6 foot thing. Like, somebody said 6 feet and that's it. And now people are freaking out on Facebook because somebody walked 5 feet within them and didn't have the mask on. The 6 feet, the 7 feet, 8 feet, 5 feet, 4 feet, they just were saying, that's probably how far, it takes for a little piece of spittle to fly the max. So we're going to say 6 feet. There's no data. There's no science. There was no experiment. There was no 8-month case or medical clinical study to determine that 6 feet is best. It's just kind of general practice or knowledge and kind of off the hip. And I think this was a case where the governor felt politically pressured by people that showed up. I always say decisions are made by people that show up, right? They showed up to Hartford, they protested, they were upset, we can't do this. So he stopped the whole thing. And I know what the pressure feels like, that people sitting in the council chambers. I'm not saying that I collapsed to it or anything, but I know what it feels like.
So it feels like, Tom, you're dismissing the considered views of the scientists who did the best they could based on science to say 6 feet is based on the evidence you have, and all along you and those who agree with you knew better. That was just a personal opinion, that there's no science behind the 6 feet. And it's easy to dismiss it because views are evolving, and it's sort of like, see, all along they didn't know what they were doing. And so we're right, we might as well just go our own way and do what we want to do. That's kind of what it felt like.
No, so what I'm saying is the 6 feet it's elastic, right? I'm saying it's not black and white, and that the same people, I was running on the trail the other day, and I walked, I was probably within about 5 feet. We had to, it was the end of the trail. And I felt like I got a look of like, oh my God, how dare you? I'm like, well, where else was I supposed to go? I don't know. Like, I'm not coughing, I'm not breathing on you. I looked the other way. Like, I think people have to ebb and flow a little bit. And the same people that are upset by it was 6 feet, they're like out there with a tape measure. There's people without these foam things and these boards. I'm saying there's ebb and flow to this, to some of this stuff. That's all. And I'm saying that the Wallingford, though, we're following the 6 feet. We're following the face shields. We're following the gowns. We're following the one person in the salon if it's so big. We just want to enforce what the one singular direction is, and that's coming from Governor Lamont's office. We're saying, you said this was good enough, we're good to go. Just because you feel some people are not prepared elsewhere doesn't mean that we're not. And I hope he listens. He probably won't, and if he doesn't, he doesn't. But it's worth a shot.
Chris, I'm going to come back to you for a quick operative word, quick reply, then go back to Tom for a quick reply, then we'll change the subject. But before we do that, a news story from NBC Connecticut. There are many news stories about the governor's change of position, setting back the opening from May 20 to June 1. But here's a quote from the mayor of Stamford. See, Wallingford is not the only town in the state, and if you believe it takes a statewide response, if you're the governor, you have to balance the interest of everyone, not just what the Wallingford local politicians think. So here's the quote. I support Governor Lamont's decision to delay the reopening of hair salons and barbershops in Connecticut, said Stamford Mayor David Martin. Prior to this announcement, Stamford's own health department shared concerns about reopening hair salons and barbershops at this time. The success of our reopening plans rely on the public's confidence to keep them healthy and safe, and we cannot guarantee that for hair salons and barbershops at this time. Not true in Wallingford. I hear you guys guaranteeing it, though. Going on with a quote, we did hear your voice on this, the governor said. Look, from a public health point of view, we felt very confident that what we were doing would not jeopardize your health, and more importantly, or just as importantly, not jeopardize the health of the greater community. But people needed a little bit of time, and we gave them some time to take care of some things that would make them feel safe. A resolution came back to the town council. I do not think Janice Small drafted it. I'll tell you why in a minute. but it called for the immediate reopening of all businesses in Wallingford. The immediate opening of all business. That's what you would be voting on. You know, despite expert advice from other places. Chris, are you out there?
I'm here.
Quick reaction to what I just said, and then we'll go to Tom because he's a special guest for a quick rebuttal to all of that, and then we'll change subjects.
I didn't hear a question, just a reaction is,
If any.
you're fired up. You are fired up.
You betcha.
I have not seen you this fired up since the 2016 audit.
You betcha.
I will tell you that I am going to spend the next few days trying to think this over. I'm on the fence. I'm going to talk to Craig again, and I don't know how I'm going to vote. You didn't ask this, but I'll answer it. I don't know how I'm going to vote. Like Governor Lamont, I reserve the right to change my mind, and we'll see what happens. Like I've gone both ways on these resolutions, and I have serious concerns. I'll leave you with this thought. You said keep it quick. There are a number of things the Wallingford Town Council could have, and some would argue should have, made resolutions on that do pertain to local matters, especially relative to COVID, that we did not. And that might be a sticking point for me, is we're going to do this, but there were other things going on in town that we didn't do, we didn't talk about. So I'm on the fence. That's where I am.
The motion that was made by Craig Fishbein talked about local control by the health director, and it never said anything about immediate opening. Yet when the resolution comes back, there's no reference to the health director, and there is a reference to the immediate opening. And the reason why I don't think Janice Small drafted this is because Janice Small is a good lawyer, and part of good lawyering is to take what your client has expressed and to find a way of getting your client's mind on paper. In my view, a lawyer would not look at that video and come back with this resolution because it does not match even closely the motion made and the discussion. So I don't think it came from the law department, but if you have firsthand information, either one of you, speak to Janice Small and she says, yes, I drafted this after watching the video, I'll buy you a couple 6-packs of beer. Tom, you have the final word, and then we want to change subjects to the budget.
Sure. So, well, who do you think wrote it? So I didn't know.
I don't know, but I don't think she did. I don't think she wrote it.
Yeah. So I didn't know it came in until just before we started recording. It was a long day, and I read it right before, right? So I don't know who wrote it. My concern that I implied in the beginning of the meeting was it didn't match, what we voted on. It actually, to be honest, it sounds more like where I thought Craig was originally going to go. Right. So you're nodding. I don't know if everybody can see him on the active screen.
You can.
And Chris is laughing. And, maybe you can edit this so everybody can see our reactions at once here. I'll say it. I mean, I don't care. I have nothing to hide. Yeah. This resolution, which came out, how did it come out so fast?
I don't know.
Janice is very busy.
It was in the can somewhere.
This has a lot of whereas in the beginning, which I'm always like, why are we so many whereases? So right, I didn't even look today in all my emails. I never would have expected it to come in so quickly. So you told me, and you can verify. I was like, what? No, we didn't get it. And you're like, no, you got it. I'm like, no. So and I went and looked at it because you guys told me to.
Yeah.
So I agree. This is not what the motion was made of, and I'm sure that there are other counselors that feel the same way. I also don't know how I'm going to vote, not only because of the resolution is the way that it is, but because the motion was to explore the option to discuss further, and I was for that. Stamford, okay, they're not ready. Wallingford's ready. I'm sorry, like. Either you weren't confident in your administrative team to get the checks done, or your salons weren't ready. Maybe they're concerned that people were going to drive to Wallingford or the other neighboring towns that may have been ready. I think we were confident that we were ready. I think that letter came out from the mayor and Steve Civitelli. I think that letter came out because they were overwhelmingly ready to go and disappointed.
Okay. I need a quick answer to this, and
Sure.
Tom, I'll stay with you. A quick answer. What is your source for your assertion that every hair salon and barber shop in Wallingford is ready? What's your source for that?
My source is my guess. And it's
Okay,
not every.
that's good enough.
It's
That's
not
short.
every. Yeah,
Chris,
it's not every. It's
what
the
is your
majority.
source? Do you believe all the barber shops and all the hair salons are ready? And if so, what is your source?
I don't have I have I have two that I know of that I've talked to who say they are
Or
ready.
personal contacts.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's that. Yeah, but that doesn't mean that all of them are. But
Can we change the subject here? I want to talk about the budget a little bit. Tom, Chris, and I have had a long discussion, like weeks, about the budget, about what the outcomes may possibly be, and whether or not it was possible to freeze the mill rate and the means and methods of doing that. And it seems like every time I put a direct question to CK Shortell, it's too early, we're still thinking. So we're almost there. Come on, what's the latest? Where's your thinking time on this?
It's too early. I'm not sure.
All right.
It is, and we have the motions meeting come up. There's a lot of discussions going on, and there's the whole there's a respect issue too. So in prior years, I worked to put together packages that didn't pan out, and I'm talking about it now. But other than that, a couple years ago, nobody would have known because I worked behind the scenes. I talked to people, and I looped back around. And the way that it evolved, it wasn't going to happen. I didn't have the votes. I didn't bother presenting it. I didn't want credit for trying to get a zero. I didn't want to make a lot of noise. It wasn't going to happen. It was pointless to me. So I think we're in that stage where it's sensitive and they don't want to be embarrassed. Maybe I was embarrassed that I couldn't put it together, or whatever. And then are people going to fight for credit over things? I don't know.
Yeah.
I think we're just at a point where we're trying to figure and hammer all that stuff out. There's 9 people. Everybody would probably love to have a zero. I would love to have a zero of all years. And I think because it's so important to say anything too soon or too early, and it's not even about looking bad, but it's about somebody that you haven't talked to about it, then feeling left out, and then the politics of it falling apart, or maybe they're not listening anymore because if you had talked to them, they would have said, "Oh, but I don't like this part, but what about this?" And I'm all on board. So you tweak something. I think everybody's just trying to figure it out, and this isn't like a back room with cigar smoke and mirrors or anything like that. This is just 9 people trying their best to get it hammer out. And when cameras aren't rolling, there's no egos, there's no credit, there's no attention. I'm hoping it happens. I don't know.
Okay. So maybe you can answer this. And
Sure.
again, short answer, if you could. Given the circumstances prevailing today, the environment, COVID, the fact that you only got to find 1.3 million, all the circumstances today, how important is it to you on a scale of 1 to 10 to come up with a mill rate freeze? And let me give you an example. A 10, you might say, no, we got to do it by any means necessary, even if that means going to the rainy day fund, or even if it means cutting the Board of Ed. I'm in for a 10. Or the other would be, I don't really care if we cut or not. I just want to do the right thing. And if there's a mill rate increase, doesn't bother me in the slightest. I'm not affected at all by the symbolic significance of a mill rate freeze. Tom, where are you on that scale of 1 to 10?
I like the optics and the symbolicness, but I'm not a 10 because I have lines. I have rules that I won't break. Batman won't kill people. I won't take money from non-recurring fund areas to pay for recurring expenses.
I hear it.
And I've been consistent about that since before I was on the board. When I was on the Board of Ed.
All right, I hear a solid
I won't
5.
break that rule.
A solid 5.
No, I'm working. I mean, for the amount of time that my kids haven't seen me today alone to talk to people on the phone or texting or Zoom meetings or go do whatever they are, it's not a 5, and they don't even understand or appreciate it. Maybe my mother does or something. I don't know because she pays taxes, but
Christopher
other than
K.
that, no.
On my scale of 1 to 10, on the scale of 1 to 10, how important is it to freeze the mill rate?
-1.
Not just okay.
Well, there's two. Can I have 2 points? As we've talked about ad nauseum on the show, I am not a zero mill rate guy. I never have been. It's never been important to me because I think that I'm a believer in flattening the curve economically, like we do at the PUC level with the electric rates, like we do in town. A series of small incremental increases that are consistent and predictable instead of the big spikes up and down. That's the first point. The second point is I'm open to it. I'm not saying I would vote against it if there was a plan. I will say I'm going to challenge something that I don't think this is the rainy day. I've thought about this a lot, and that's like a big thing. People are saying this is the rainy day. Well, number one, if it is the rainy day, is this the day that we upend the town's fiscal policy to do this? Number two, though, the rainy day, it could be next year, it could be in 2 years, or maybe it'll all get better when this goes. I mean, I don't know that this, the rainy day is when the state cuts some funding and then we have to supplement the funding because there's something like 20% of the town's services are state funded, which means grant funded or state funded. So you start losing that. I don't know, maybe you'll never lose it. But that's what I worry about. No, I mean, I think there's ways to do it, as Tom said. I'm open to certain ways. I think the final point, the problem is this: you have a lot of savings stowed away, different places, cap and non, general fund, the Board of Ed, everyone's 2% account, all this savings, but it's hard to address that in next year's budget. It's hard to use that and make it work for you in the budget. And the reason it is that most of these budgets are recurring. And and that's the tough part. It's mostly salaries, it's mostly benefits. On the schools, it's transportation. Tom and I have talked about this offline. Even things like buying computers, you buy them every year anyway. So in a sense, that's recurring. So it's hard. And yes, the mayor does dip into the fund to balance it. And so he is in essence using savings for recurring. But I just think just to finish up, what I've been an advocate of is I do believe it's the people's money in the bank. I would build something for the people, like a pool or like a park. That's how I would give the money back, or I would, that's to me is the way you do it versus.
I just wanted a number. You're 5 on a scale of 1 to
-1. -1. That's you get a lot more.
That's all I wanted.
You get a lot more.
I was asking
Well,
for.
I'm never brief.
So let me change the subject and go to Tom for this. I sent you guys an email and going over the topics for the show, which is my usual practice. And, we sort of, so kind of what's coming in general terms. And I said on the pool issue, you want a new pool, you got to get a new mayor. Tom, would you react to that?
I don't think that's true. I think if there was a mayoral change, it might go easier towards the pool. It could. But I don't know that it's guaranteed either. I voted originally I voted to delay the pool, and that motion failed. This was a couple weeks ago. And then I ended up voting for the pool and the project. And generally the way that I operate on the council, and I did when I was on the Board of Ed, when I lose a battle, that's it. I don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, and we move along. A majority of the people did not want to delay the pool project, but I support the project. I like the plan. I just wanted a little more time with the economy and everything going. A couple more months to figure it out. The only benefit to the whole pool, doing the pool right now, is that the pool's closed because of COVID. So we're not really losing a season if we started construction in the summer. Before COVID, we were always going to lose a season. That was just the way it was going to be. And I think that kind of got away from all of us, including myself. And even until the middle of that meeting, I would say even actually the next meeting, where then I voted not to override the mayoral veto. I went into that meeting not sure how I was going to vote, and I let people know that. I wanted to be convinced. I said that. I wanted to be convinced, and that's what it really came down to for me, is I kind of realized, stepping back, we were always going to lose a season, and we were kind of rushing, I felt, to kind of take advantage of the already lost season. But for the reason we lost the season, we should be holding off a second.
Right.
And so yeah, the pool. So the mayor supported it. He supported it for a long time, and at the end, yeah. So you're going to say, I'm going to play short tell right now. You're going to say that the mayor never really was that excited about the pool, and he took the first chance he could to not move along with it or whatever. Whatever, I don't know. He supported it. A majority of the councilors supported it. A veto-proof majority of the councilors supported it until COVID, and then that kind of came up. So it is on us,
Okay.
and Councilor Shortell is responsible for this. It is on us
We're trying
to not lose it.
So, Chris, you read my email. You want a new pool? You got to get a new mayor. Your reaction to my comment?
False.
Explain.
The mayor
You're a new guy now. Explain your new role as you work that into your.
Oh,
comment.
I got to answer your first. Don't switch questions. You asked me. You said explain. I don't need it. The Tom hit it on the head. The mayor would have. Let me put it to you this way. Do you know that project they have? We just lost it at the last minute. It was this project to put Wi-Fi all over Wallingford, and it was going on and on and on. And then it's just that COVID happened. Oh, that's right. You don't know that project. You know why you don't know that project? Because the mayor doesn't want to do it, so it never got started. The mayor is not going to waste his time. I absolutely believe the mayor wanted the pool because it took 2 years of the Parks and Rec Commission and the meeting with him. I think he was tied to a price, a budget amount. And in his defense, we all were sold, an initial quote, which wasn't by a construction company that had no experience building pools. Oh, you could do it for $6 million. And then they started going out and they had another expert come in and it was like, well, that's a little low. So my point is, I don't believe that for a minute. I do believe that he wanted to do it, but he wanted to do it for the price that he wanted. So that's going to be the issue but he was ready to do it as of April 13th or April 12th, whatever that first memo we got. All he said to us was, please try to reduce the cost. He didn't say don't do it. And then I think I think COVID was part of it. And I think the price tag was part of it. And he bailed out at the last minute and used COVID as the excuse. But I do believe he wants something there. I don't think he just wants to let it die.
One last topic. I'm going to challenge you guys to see if you can keep your comments to under 60 seconds each. Chris, and then Tom. Chris, you are hot on the trail of a lost $1.2 million in the Capital and Non-Recurring Fund, which is a collection of electric division money that is set aside for capital improvements or improvements to lands, roads, bridges, buildings. Apparently, not apparently, but Jim Bowes at a recent meeting said that 1.2 million has been is available for redesignation. 1.2 million is money that has been freed up because other projects have been completed or somehow taken down, but we can't find a trace of that 1.2, or even if that 1.2 is the right number. Chris, what's you're trying to follow up on this? What's going on? And then to Tom.
Yeah, briefly, I want to give credit where it's due. It was Councilor Fishbein who asked about how much money is free. I had asked about all these old projects, and I'd done an Excel spreadsheet of all these old projects going back 10 years, and why are they still there? So between Councilor Fishbein's questions and my questions, Mr. Bowe said what he said, that there's 1.2 million he did a sweep of the account, which he said he does typically every so often, and there's 1.2 million. The issue is you can't find that number anywhere. You can't back into it. There's no list closed out projects. So I did, the only, update is I talked to him last week. He's been very helpful. He's helpful to all the counselors answering our questions. I discussed it with him, and then I emailed him today and I asked him for a specific breakdown because I think it's important that A, we can back into that number, and B, that number, whatever that number is going to change over time. Projects will get closed out. The mayor may dip into it and reassign it, but we need to always understand what that number is. So okay. I did ask for that.
So you're on the case, and Tom, do you have Chris's? Are you supporting Chris in this?
Yeah. So I think when Bowes got asked the question, he had the 1.2 million number pretty quickly. He wasn't hemming and hawing or wasn't sure. I think the 1.2 or whatever the exact number is part of probably some number or known number entity that the mayor and the comptroller are aware of. And for whatever reason, we're going to find out because now we're talking about it and we're going to see what's going on. It's a number that is cycling through. They're accounting for it, and we're going to learn exactly how or where. Because we're some people are concerned they can't find the exact 1.2 number, and he may have just been throwing out a rounded number. I don't know, but I think I'm comfortable that the two of them at least are aware. It's not like, oh my gosh, I totally didn't even know this was here. I don't think it was a mismanagement thing. I think they've kept these old numbers in there that maybe shouldn't have been in there so long, floating as a way of accounting. And then I'm assuming, because I know the mayor, I think I know him pretty well for all the years that we've worked together. He probably has some sort of idea or plan or where this is going to go, whether it's the pool or the police station or whatever it's going to be. And we're going to find out more about it in the future. And, you know, with the politics that he didn't share, I don't know. We're going to find out. But I don't think it was mismanagement. I think there's some sort of strategy or game going on, and we're going to find out what it is.
Thanks, Tom Laffin, for coming on the Citizen Mike Show. We do appreciate it, and thank you, viewers, for tuning in. As everyone knows, this show pops up on YouTube, and I put links all over Facebook on it, so you can easily find the Citizen Mike Show. Our next show is probably going to be in a couple of weeks, and our special guest scheduled to be Chairman of the Wallingford Town Council, Vinnie Cervoni. Good night, guys. See you next time.